success of American Graffiti can be attributed to three main reasons. Number one, the cast and crew. George put together an incredibly talented group of young actors and actresses, and they and the crew worked extremely hard under incredible circumstances. The movie was filmed in 28 days, from 9 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they worked during the day, you know, the crew. And as you probably read in the Modesto Bee yesterday, Haskell Wexler was invaluable to George in making this film, and as a friend. He encouraged him before he even went to film school, and then came up to the Bay Area every night to help George film American Graffiti. And this was after he worked his day job in Los Angeles. So Haskell, thank you so much for your input. It is greatly appreciated because you really mentored George very much. George, the second reason it was so successful is because the music. George had a major battle with Universal Studios regarding the budget for this film. The deal for American Graffiti almost fell apart when it came time to license the rock and roll songs. To George, the music was incredibly important to the film. If there wasn't music, there was no film. He wanted music from beginning to end, and originally he wanted the rights to use about 80 or so songs, and the studio wanted the soundtrack to be cut down to 5 to 6. Well, George refused, and he ended up cutting his original list to 45 songs. The total budget for the film was $750,000. He spent $90,000 on the rights for the songs, and that was more than 10% of the entire budget for the film, and the studios were not happy about that. They just thought he was ridiculous to do this. He had an extensive collection of 45 records that he and I bought at Harley's, there's another memory, which used to be next to the Camera Center. He knew that rock and roll songs would take the audience back to the moments in their lives when they had first heard them. Not everyone grew up in Modesto, but everyone had heard those songs and listened to the same music. And the third reason it was successful is because if it wasn't for George's incredible tenacity and perseverance and passion to fight for what he wanted the film to be in the end, it never would have been made. He had so many unexpected challenges and obstacles to overcome in making American Graffiti. It was George versus the studio, David versus Goliath. In addition to the budget, the other main issue was control over what finally ended up on the screen. George wrote and directed the film, but the studio had the final say over everything about the film, even what the title should be. They didn't even want it to be American Graffiti. They didn't like that title, and they wanted control over how it would end. And after it was done, before it was released, the studio executives saw the film along with a selected audience. Bottom line, the audience loved it, the studios hated it. And the executives, they did not want it to be released, and after all he had gone through to make the movie, they were going to pull the plug on it, and unless changes were made. But George stood his ground on most of the requests, but he had to give in on a few things, and the rest is history. That was the beginning of his passion to become an independent filmmaker, so that he would have total control over his films and not be under some NBA studio executive who themselves had never written or directed or edited a film from the ground up. I'll leave you with this quick humorous story. George has always been a real stickler for detail in all of his films. He had lived during the American Graffiti days, so he knew exactly what was culturally correct. For those of you who have seen the new Indiana Jones film, you get a kind of a American Graffiti rush or flashback at the beginning as it opens, because it takes place in the 50s. In one of the interviews he and Steven gave while the film was premiering, the question was asked, Shia plays a young greaser. Did he know what a greaser was? Steven's answer, he didn't. George's answer, I had to train him. Shia got sent to the American Graffiti School of Greaserland. I became the consultant on his cone. One time when he was on location, Steven called me up and said, look, there's this leather jacket we have in this shot, and we need to know, should it be snapped or unsnapped? So, American Graffiti continues to live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.